Hello, Starshine. This is Madar from Song of Stones, and I'm here. Well, first, let me introduce myself. I am a crystal whisperer, for those who don't know me, and that means that I talk to stones and they talk to me. And this wonderful stone is talking to all of us today. And it is a labradorite polished hand palm stone. And we've been talking about labradorite recently, and while I was connecting with the crystal and gathering wisdom from it and insights and information to share with you, this particular one, this is a personal piece of mine. I've had it for many years, and it fell out of my hand and it broke. And my first reaction was, oh no. And then I realized that there was some magic happening here. There always is when a crystal breaks. When anything breaks, really, but when a crystal breaks, more so. So, you know, it's such a beautiful piece, and there's so much light and color and smoothness, and there's, there's elegance and beauty in its form. And of course that changes when it's broken. Now there's, a jagged edge. Now it's sharp. And it's not as, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as symmetrical, I guess, is the word that I'm looking for. So why do crystals break, and how do we find the comfort, first of all the answer, but also the comfort in knowing that our clumsiness isn't as at fault, that we're not as at fault because we've been clumsy and careless. Because it's very easy to go there. It's very easy for me to say, ugh, look what I did to my beautiful crystal, and how terrible am I? But so here's the thing. When we understand the reason, well, first of all, I also want to say something else. I want to say that, I've dropped crystals many times. I've flung crystals across the room, unintentionally, obviously. I put them in my pocket or somewhere else, and when I change, or it ends up in the laundry, or when I change it and it gets flown across the room. I've had that happen so many times, and not a scratch on the crystal. So we have to also think about that too. How many times have you dropped a crystal and it hasn't broken? And why did it break this time? And this was a pretty solid form. It's not a form that easily breaks. Tumbled stones don't easily break when they fall. So we need to consider that for a moment too. And, before we start beating ourselves up. And then we also have to trust a little bit in the magic of the crystal, in the magic of the universe, right? In destiny, if you want to look at it that way, that maybe there's some purpose there. And so one of the things that a broken crystal shows us is that, is change. And we resist change. Boy, do we resist change. But change happens, and change is good. And change happens for a reason. And when we experience a change, let's say we're experiencing a spiritual shift, sometimes we can go through something and, our body needs to adjust to where our energetic field is. And that means it shifts in form. It might not be something as dramatic as a broken crystal or as visible. It could be some other physical way that we change. And it could just be in our energetic pattern. But we do. And this crystal is coming to show us this in its form, in its physical form. And then it also comes to remind us about our perfectionism. We live in a society where if something isn't perfect, if something isn't pristine, if something has a spot or a cut or a tear or a break, it's not perfect, and then it doesn't have the same value. We see that in a lot of places in our society. We see it on social media. We see it in, in our bodies. Like, if we don't have a perfect body, then we're not perfect. We see that. In our homes, we want the perfect house, and if it's got any flaw, it's not as it's not as valuable. There are so many examples. I'm just not thinking of them in the moment, but I'm sure a lot will come into your mind. So, this crystal is showing us this. It's reminding us about our perfectionism. And when we see a crystal or anything is damaged or broken, including ourselves, and this is one of the big problems that happens is we're looking at the crystal and thinking, oh, you're damaged, you're not as valuable. But that's really a projection of how we're seeing ourselves. That's really where the big problem lies. But anyways, so we're missing out when we do that. We're missing out on a new beauty, a different beauty. We're missing out on listening for, paying attention to what, the gift that's come from the situation, from the break, from the damage, from whatever you want to call it. Because I promise you there always is. And when we're busy, feeling sorrow and sadness, and that's totally normal and understandable and acceptable. Of course, I'm sad about the change that, that this crystal once had this beautiful form, and now it's changed. And I'm sad about that. But now I'm seeing it in a different way, and I can celebrate that. So I can be both. I can be sad for its old, miss its old form, but also welcome this new version of this crystal and the new energetic pattern that it's holding, which means it's got a new frequency, which means it's got another gift for me. And one of the gifts that this crystal gave me, well, it's really for all of us, is a message it shared, what I call a song. Hence the name Song of Stones. And I'm going to be sharing that in our, I don't know if it's going in this week's Light Log post. I'm definitely going to be talking about the broken crystal in this week's Light Log post. I'm just going to see how long the message is and whether I'm going to put it in today's post or whether it's going to have its own separate post. Stay tuned, or just pop by and visit songofstones.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the main page, and you'll see a section called Light Log, and it'll be there, and you'll see. And I'll also be talking about it in our Sunday Sparkle newsletter. And I invite you, if you're not already part of our crystal community, I invite you. Once a month, we get together live and I take us through a connection with our crystal to receive its message. So if you have a broken crystal and you want to know why your crystal broke, bring it along, and we can, that can be your focus for our next Crystal Live. We can listen in and see what the answer is. And you'd be surprised how quickly the answers come when we're listening, and when we're doing it together, it's all the more powerful. There is some power in numbers. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that. There's so much more to this crystal and the subject of broken crystals. But I want to leave you with this, is if you've been beating yourself up about a crystal that broke, whether you dropped it or it fell or it got knocked or whatever happened, be gentle with yourself. Be kind to yourself, because really you did not do anything wrong. And your crystal is okay. Not only is it okay, but it's in a new form, in a new pattern. And it's maybe even more powerful. Maybe it has even more of a special gift to give you. And you're not going to see that if you're being hard on yourself, because all your energy is going to go to shame and blame. And the crystals don't want you to do that. They really don't. Their love for you does not shatter when it breaks. You might even have more of it, because there's more pieces to it. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that, and I'm going hopefully see you at the Crystal Live. And if not, I will see you next time, and I'm holding so much love and many, 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 many blessings and magic for you. See you, my friend.